You ever feel like your inner world is just, well, a lot?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this constant hum of worries, maybe some self-doubt kicking in, and then, all the pressures of just daily life piled on top.
Definitely. It's something I think everyone experiences.
Yeah. And it really makes you wonder if there's a way to find some calm, in the middle of all that. Maybe a practice designed to bring a bit of clarity, a sense of peace when things feel overwhelming.
That's a really universal feeling, and actually, it's exactly what we're going to explore today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've delved into some really fascinating material around this concept called Dhikr.
Dhikr. Okay, let's unpack that. It's a term from Islamic tradition, right? Often translated as remembrance of God.
Exactly.
So for this deep dive, we're looking at it from a couple of perspectives.
That's right. We've got insights from Dr. Tarek El-Gawari's YouTube channel, and also the teachings attributed to Syekh Ahmad Shohibul Tajul Arifin.
Also known as Abba Anom.
Yes, from Pondok Pesantren Surialaya in Indonesia.
Okay. Now, while it definitely has these, religious roots, what really grabbed me, honestly, is the potential for practical tools here. Things that could resonate with, well, anyone looking for maybe greater mental, even spiritual well-being.
Precisely. And I think that's key. Whether or not someone has a specific religious affiliation, the core ideas, they're about focusing your inner thoughts, right? Setting intentions, cultivating a sense of presence. That's relevant to so many of us,
Totally. So let's look at the sources. Dr. El-Gawari, you said.
Yes. He emphasizes that Dhikr in Islam is this kind of boundless form of worship.
Boundless, how so?
Well, unlike other religious acts that might have specific conditions or times, like prayer or fasting,
Right.
remembering God doesn't really have those same limitations. It's something you can do anytime, anywhere.
Okay.
And he makes a really compelling point that the core, the essence of Dhikr should be the remembrance itself.
Just the act of remembering.
Yeah, not just, what we might hope to get from it.
Okay, that's interesting. And then the other source, Abba Anom.
Right. His teachings focus on Dhikrullah, which is specifically the remembrance of Allah.
Got it.
And his perspective really highlights this as a potent method for inner purification, almost like a protective shield against negative influences.
A shield.
And it's particularly insightful to see how he applied this in the Indonesian context, using it as a way to help people overcome things like addiction and even address social tensions.
Wow, okay. So different angles, but maybe converging somewhere.
Exactly. And that's our goal here, really. With this deep dive, we want to pull out the fundamental principles of Dhikr from both viewpoints.
Okay.
Understand what it's truly meant for, look at the practical ways people engage with it, and, what the potential benefits might be for inner peace, for navigating life.
Sounds good. So let's start at the beginning. At its heart, what is Dhikr all about?
Well, fundamentally, both our sources land on a pretty similar core meaning. Dr. El-Gawari describes it simply as the remembrance of God, a focused awareness, crucially, without associating any partners with the divine. And he suggests it's something deeply connected to our inherent nature.
Inherent nature, like it's something already inside us, waiting to be accessed.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And Abba Anom reinforces this. He explains Dhikr in Arabic just means remembrance.
Simple enough.
And Dhikrullah is the act of remembering Allah specifically. He really stresses that this act, keeping Allah in mind, is key to positive change within ourselves.
So the core is intentionally bringing God or this higher awareness to the front of our minds.
Right. But not, and this is a key point from Dr. El-Gawari, not as some kind of cosmic vending machine.
Right. Tell me more about that. He had a pretty strong warning, didn't he?
He did. He cautioned against practicing Dhikr solely to get something in return.
Like what?
Well, doing remembrance specifically hoping for wealth or protection or some other worldly benefit is the only motivation.
Okay.
He used that really memorable comparison, saying that treating God that way is like treating him as Santa Claus.
Wow. Yeah, that hits home. It really makes you pause and think about why we do things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Whether it's spiritual practice or even just self-improvement stuff.
It absolutely prompts reflection on our intentions.
Yeah.
El-Gawari brings up this powerful example of the Prophet Muhammad during a really difficult time in a place called Taif, where he faced just intense hostility, rejection.
Right, I remember reading about that.
Even in that deep personal hardship, the Prophet's main concern wasn't, get me out of this, but rather, is God pleased with me?
That's a completely different focus.
Yeah.
It's the pleasure of God over personal gain.
Exactly. El-Gawari frames Dhikr almost as this fundamental declaration of belief, like a statement of fact.
A statement of fact.
Yeah, like acknowledging the sky is blue. It's something you know to be true, so you state it, you remember it. Our faith leads us to remember God. It's not primarily about the reward, but about recognizing that inherent truth.
That really challenges us, I think, to look at our inner work, whatever that looks like for each person. Are we just looking for quick fixes, tangible results?
Or is there a deeper, more intrinsic motivation driving it?
Yeah.
And that intrinsic motivation piece is crucial. Building on that, it makes sense that Dhikr might also serve a more, let's say, active purpose in our inner lives.
Okay, active how?
This brings us back to Abba Anum's perspective on its transformative power.
Right, the purification aspect.
Yes. He describes Dhikrullah as a way to consciously redirect our awareness towards what is righteous, what is good.
Redirecting.
Yeah, actively counteracting those negative pulls from our ego, what he calls the nafs, and also from external negative influences, Satan's whispers in this context.
Okay, the nafs. That's like the ego or the lower self.
That's often how it's translated, yes. In this context, it's seen as the source of negative desires, impulses, that sort of thing. So Dhikrullah is like intentionally filling our minds with this remembrance as a form of guidance.
So it's not passive remembering, it's an active tool.
Very much so.
For changing things inside us.
Yeah.
Abba Anam mentioned concrete examples,
Yeah.
right? Like addiction.
Absolutely. He talks about it being a means to overcome serious issues like drug addiction, but also resolving everyday conflicts within families, and even preventing broader societal divisions that he saw as originating from negative desires, greed, envy, things like that.
So it scales from the personal right up to the societal level.
It's presented as a really dynamic and transformative force, yes.
Okay. Now, both sources talked about the how of Dhikr, right? The mechanics.
They did, in slightly different ways. Dr. El-Gawari talks quite a bit about the role of repetition.
Repetition, okay.
And this interesting concept of letting go.
Letting go. What does he mean by that?
Well, he explains that the outward repetition of Dhikr, whether you're saying phrases aloud, maybe in a group, or even quietly to yourself, that external action acts as a catalyst. It triggers an internal remembrance within the heart. He calls it a continuous humming.
A humming. I like that description.
It's evocative, isn't it? But he stresses the importance of not getting bogged down in, say, overthinking the meaning of the words while you're doing it.
Oh, why not?
Or trying too hard to create some mental image of God, or focusing too intensely on the sounds themselves. The crucial part, he says, is to let go.
Let go of the effort.
Kind of. Let go of the mental striving, the overanalysis, to allow this inner Dhikr, this humming, to just naturally unfold.
That sounds a lot like some mindfulness or meditation techniques, actually.
It really does resonate, doesn't it? Releasing control to find a deeper focus. You're not forcing an outcome, you're creating the conditions for it to arise.
Okay. And this internal humming, how does that connect with Abba Anum's idea of Dhikrullah as protection?
Well, Abba Anum identifies the ego, the nafs, as having this natural inclination towards negativity.
Like what kind of negativity?
Things like malice, betrayal, envy, hatred, the darker aspects of human nature.
Right.
And he also talks about external negative influences personified as Satan in this tradition that seek to create instability, chaos, and lead us away from what's right.
So internal struthers and external pressures.
Exactly. Those are the challenges we face.
And Dhikrullah is the tool to deal with them.
That's how Abba Anum presents it. He calls Dhikrullah a strong fortress.
A fortress.
Yeah, against these negative forces, both by blocking those external temptations and, importantly, by purifying those internal egoistic tendencies, cleansing from within.
So work on both fronts.
Right. And he even shares a saying attributed to the Prophet Muhammad, which is quite profound. It says that the greatest struggle, the Jihadul Akbar,
A greater jihad, yes.
is the internal battle. The battle against our own ego, our negative inclinations, our harmful desires.
Wow. That really puts the focus squarely on inner work, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Now, Abba Anum gets really specific about how to do Dhikr, doesn't he? Practical methods.
He does. It's very detailed. He distinguishes between verbal Dhikr, which is audible.
Like saying something out loud.
Exactly, like reciting La ilaha illallah.
Meaning, there's no God worthy of worship except Allah.
Correct. And then there's silent internal Dhikr,
Correct.
just in the heart or mind.
They're both important.
He emphasizes that both are essential. They work together to strengthen faith iman and to affirm God's oneness tawhid.
Got it. And he talked about levels of understanding it.
Yes, which I found interesting. It starts with just uttering the words.
Okay, step one.
Then ensuring the pronunciation is correct. And then the deeper level is truly comprehending the meaning behind them. No God worthy of worship but Allah.
So it's a progression.
It seems so. And then he outlines this very specific method, almost like a spiritual exercise for actively warding off those negative influences we talked about.
Okay, this is the fortress part in action. Walk us through that.
Sure. So according to his teachings, the practice involves saying La ilaha illallah, but as you say, the La ilaha part. You consciously direct your awareness to the center of your body, maybe the chest or solar plexus area. You really try to feel the meaning of that negation, no God filling that space. This is considered the first entry point for negative influences.
Okay, center of the body. Then what?
Then, as you say the word ilah, you gently turn your head to the right shoulder, and you focus on feeling that word, its meaning, permeating the entire right side of your body. That's seen as the second entry point.
Okay, right side.
Finally, as you say Allah, you turn your head across to the left shoulder, feeling that sacred name fill the entire left side, the third entry point.
Wow. Center, right, left, with specific parts of the phrase.
Exactly. And this whole sequence, the La ilaha illallah, with the head turns and the internal feeling, is recommended to be done after the 5 daily prayers.
How many times?
Repeated 165 times.
165 times. That's quite a commitment.
It is. It shows the emphasis placed on consistency and deep engagement. This specific physical and verbal practice is considered, within his tradition, a very powerful way to embody the meaning and actively build that fortress.
That's incredibly detailed. It's not just mental recitation at all. It's fully embodied.
Precisely. It highlights a very physical, intentional approach to remembrance.
And this connects back to strengthening faith, he said.
Absolutely. Abba Anom really emphasizes the importance of consistent remembrance for strengthening faith. He even mentions that saying attributed to the prophet, renew your faith, by frequently saying La ilaha illallah. The idea is that this ongoing practice keeps you grounded, keeps your faith fresh and strong, makes you less susceptible to being swayed by temptations or doubts.
So it's like spiritual maintenance.
You could see it that way, yes. And interestingly, he also connects this practice to obedience.
Obedience.
Yeah, obedience to God, obedience to the prophet, and also to righteous leadership. He sees these as vital aspects of faith that Dhikr helps to support and reinforce.
So it's not purely an individual, isolated practice. It has implications for community, for structure.
That seems to be the perspective, yes. It shapes your inner state, which then influences your outer actions and relationships.
And does this practice, this Dhikr, guarantee you won't face challenges or temptations?
That's an important clarification Abba Anam makes. He presents it as a powerful means for fostering good intentions, for removing obstacles in your heart. But it doesn't necessarily mean temptations just vanish entirely.
Right. Life still happens.
Exactly. Rather, the Dhikr strengthens your inner capacity, your resilience to resist those temptations and to stay on a path of righteousness when they do arise.
So it builds inner strength, inner resilience.
That's a great way to summarize it.
Okay. This has been fascinating. As we bring this deep dive toward a close, what are the key insights, the main takeaways that stand out for you and hopefully for our listeners too?
I think maybe the most significant one is that Dhikr really, in its essence, is about cultivating this consistent awareness, an awareness of something greater than ourselves. And whether you connect with that through a specific religious framework like Islam, or you see it more broadly as a practice for just enhancing inner focus, that principle of intentional remembrance, it holds, I think, considerable power.
Yeah, I was really struck by that idea, particularly from Dr. El-Gawari, that the remembrance itself can be the goal.
Right, not just the outcomes.
Yeah, seeking that connection, that internal humming he described. Maybe that leads to a deeper kind of fulfillment than always chasing external rewards or quick fixes.
Absolutely. And from Abba Anam's teachings, we get these incredibly practical insights.
The fortress, the specific method.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How we can actively, manage inner conflict, how we can resist negative thoughts or impulses, and really strive for positive change, not just in ourselves, but potentially in our communities too.
These aren't just abstract ideas. They're presented as actionable steps. That specific practice he detailed, it's quite something. Makes you wonder about other variations too, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It shows a very structured approach within that tradition.
So maybe here's a final thought, something for our listeners to chew on.
Okay.
Could consciously directing your thoughts, your focus, your attention, in a way that maybe mirrors this practice of Dhikr. Could that be a valuable tool for navigating, the sheer complexity of modern life, for building inner strength, resilience, regardless of your specific beliefs?
That's a powerful question.
Just consider the potential impact, maybe, of intentionally remembering your core values, your best intentions, throughout the hustle and bustle of your day. What could that change?
Definitely food for thought. And if this exploration has sparked curiosity in anyone listening,
Yeah.
well, you might find it really rewarding to explore different traditions of contemplative practice, or you could delve deeper into the specific teachings of Dr. Tariq El-Gawari, or look into the rich history of Pondok Pesantren Srialaya and Abba Anom.
Lots more to discover if people are interested.
For sure, there's a real wealth of knowledge and wisdom out there.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the concept of Dhikr and its really profound potential for inner transformation.
Thank you. It was a great discussion.